Well, after I did that review for the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, the other day I thought, I'll just watch Secret of the Ooze, and then I'll be done. Like, that's the only one that I'm really in the mood to watch. But I forgot. It's quarantine. Somehow, an entire day passed without my permission, and I have watched every single theatrical Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. So I guess I better make that count for something and rank them all worst to best. Welcome to Durbania, I'm Durbin, and this is my ranking of all 6 theatrical Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, worst to best. I'm a huge Turtles fan. I've always loved the Turtles growing up as a kid, and I have always been a huge fan of that 1990 movie, so I'm super excited to dive into this. I'm not going to worry about spoilers. If I say spoilers, I say them. If I don't, I don't. I'm just going to talk about these movies, and I'm looking forward to that. So if there's any one of these you haven't seen, just expect that a spoiler or 5 is just going to pour out of my mouth. Now, if you've seen all 6 Ninja Turtle movies, how would you rank them worst to best? Let's talk about that in the comments. Coming in for me at number 6, the undisputed champion of the worst Ninja Turtles movie, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Turtles in Time. This was just a bad movie.
Hey, you were expecting maybe the Addams Family?
Good one. I feel like there was a germ of a good idea here. I mean, it's fun to take 4 mutated, ninja-fighting, talking turtles and send them back in time. They have this new environment, new villains, something new that they have to deal with. So the idea is a pretty cool idea. Another germ of a good idea that was in here was this idea of Raphael just tired of living in the sewer. And we see Michelangelo starts to develop this same type of cabin fever, that they just want to interact with the surface world. They want to interact with people. And so going to Japan 1603, where they, end up saving this village, and, Leonardo performs CPR on this boy Yoshi to save him after, his house was on fire, which, think about how disgusting that is for a minute. That's turtle breath. That is completely disgusting. What if Yoshi got rabies? Well, that's rats. But the point is, this village loved and accepted the Ninja Turtles. And so we got to see Raphael and Michelangelo outside, in the fresh air, interacting with people. So there was a germ of a character arc here. I don't think they completed that character arc. I think character arc is too strong of a word and term to throw into a movie like this. But you could just see the germ of these ideas was there. But it was just a stupid movie. Like, it was really bad. You could tell they just definitely left the Jim Henson Creature Shop, and their turtle costumes were terrible. The turtles looked so bad that every single scene that they were in, it took me out of it. You don't want the turtles to be the thing that takes you out of a Turtles movie. You want the turtles to be the very thing that kind of draws you into a Turtles movie. It did not work. And the other thing is, it had a more interesting storyline in this right here. Look at this scene.
You have come back.
Yeah, we like to drop in about every 3 or 4 centuries.
I've disgraced my ancestor, but you will not disgrace me.
They unravel that scroll that has the 4 turtles on it. And so what we find is kind of our villain in this. His ancestors were defeated by the 4 turtles on this scroll. So that, to me, was something I was far more interested in than the entirety of this movie. Does that mean that, like, the turtles, they come back to modern day, years go by, they're no longer teenagers, they're grown-ups, they accidentally figure out how to time travel even further back in time, and then they end up, like, creating this legend? Is that what happens? I don't know, but I'm more interested to know about that than I am about anything else that is going on in this movie. Coming in at number 5, TMNT 2007. It's funny because originally when I printed out my list and I was kind of practicing this in my head before I sat here in front of the camera, I had this movie higher on that list. But the more I kind of went over this movie, the more I realized, yeah, I gotta push this one back a little bit. The reason it was going to be higher was because I was entertained. I enjoyed the movie. I didn't dislike it. I mean, it had some heart to it. Like, one of the things that I liked was the idea that you had these 4 evil brothers from 3,000 years ago. So you had Patrick Stewart's character, who's kind of like, I guess, the evil Splinter, even though he's human, but he's kind of like the master, and he wants immortality. So he's selfish, and to get it, it turns his 4 brothers into stone, so he lives 3,000 years with guilt and regret. And so when he gives the stone statues of his brothers and one sister life, I guess somehow they get life even though they're still stone, then they want to mutiny their brother because not because they're mad at him for, you know, turning them into stone, but because they don't want to die, even if it means they stay stone. And so they mutiny against him. So while that's going on, you have a picture of this family, and you have a picture of these brothers and one sister. But then you have the picture of the Ninja Turtles, their brotherhood, and their brotherhood's in trouble. I mean, Leo's insecure about his leadership. Raph is super rebellious in this one. In fact, he's like his own vigilante, the Night Watcher, which is flippin' awesome. And so the Turtles have to learn to unify. Leo's got to learn to get over his insecurities and be a good leader. Raph has got to learn to humble himself under that leadership. So I feel like overall, yeah, it's got a pretty interesting and decent message to it. So like that part of it is pretty cool, and it gives it heart. And this character arc of Leo having to be a good leader and overcome his insecurities, Raph unwilling to submit to that leadership, the fact that they have this fight on this rooftop in the rain is pretty cool. Not just because the animation actually looks all right in that scene, but because kind of the brotherhood and emotion and the character arcs that are coming together in this moment. Like when Raph actually breaks Leo's sword, that's a powerful moment. So it's got some cool stuff like this, and that's kind of why it was a little bit higher on my list. But what ended up bringing it back, number one, it was the animation itself. I just did not like the people. Like, the humans did not look good in their animation in this at all. It really looked like it wasn't cinematic. It looked like this was a Nickelodeon TV show, and that's really where this should have been instead of ever on the big screen. That's the feeling I got every time I watched that. And it was kind of distracting to me. It actually did take me out of it. The only scene that I thought was pretty cool with the animation was the rainy scene of Leo and Raph when they were fighting, but you know, again, that's probably more because of the, you know, emotion of that scene and watching these two turtles fight and how all that came to a head. But as a whole, like, the animation just wasn't my favorite in the movie. The other thing I can keep punching holes in is Leo. Because, number one, Splinter sent him, what, all the way to South America by himself to learn how to be a good leader? That's stupid. Splinter is way, way smarter than that. Because if Leo's going to learn to be a leader, he's got to have people to lead. So the other brothers should have gone with him, right? That way they're in a different environment, in a different place. They learn to listen to Leo. Leo learns to listen to them. He learns to be a good leader. Like, he learns leadership in a different environment, different place, without Master Splinter there. But instead it's Leo by himself. I guess I don't get the concept. But then he stays a year longer than he was supposed to and quits contacting them, which leads me to believe there was a really bad thing that happened. Like, he said words he can't take back, or he made a huge mistake and he feels guilt. But they don't ever answer that. They don't ever bring it back to that. In fact, there's an Easter egg at the end of this movie where you see the time scepter that was in Ninja Turtles 3, which I feel like is them in a way trying to connect it to that Turtles trilogy. And if that's what they're doing, I don't understand why Leo has separated himself so much from the other turtles. I can get it's his insecurities. I can get it's his fear. But it just feels like the setup is something much deeper than that, and I just don't really see that. So there's that. And the monster thing, like, it was kind of strange. Number 4, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. My wife was watching this movie with me, and when we got to this one, I think we both were expecting to find it weaker and less fun. Instead, we both had more fun than we thought we were going to have. Now, part of that could be we already knew the script was kind of weak going in. We kind of knew kind of the faults of this movie going in, so our expectations were in the right place. And accepting this movie for what it was probably gave us a bit more enjoyment with it. I mean, for instance, the highlights that stood out to me in rewatching it, Casey Jones. I love Stephen Amell as Casey Jones. I thought he did a great job. The one thing that kind of sticks out as a sore thumb to me as bad, I don't even think it's Stephen Amell's fault. It's that scene where Casey Jones, he's confronting Laura Linney's character. He's like, I'm going to be a detective one day, and I'm going to take the exam the next chance I get. It was so forced and thrown in there. And I don't mean his performance, I mean the lines. It was exposition that didn't need to be there, because much later in the movie, when you have Stephen Amell and Megan Fox, April O'Neil, and Casey Jones alone in that interrogation room, he organically brings up how he wants to be a detective. So I don't know why they had to force that in there. Plus, we see him trying to be a detective, trying to find Bebop and Rocksteady. So we get it. We didn't need that forced dialogue. And that kind of took the character down a few notches for me. But now expecting that, kind of just overlooking that, I ended up finding this character a lot more fun than I remembered from the first time I watched this movie. Part of the fun is just when he meets the Turtles for the very first time, and Michelangelo's messing with him like, our leader sent us to eat you. Like, that's pretty hysterical. But what's even more hysterical, it is the scene where he sees Splinter for the first time. He's like, don't move! There is a giant rat. And they're like, well, get low and attack fast. And so he gets low and he attacks fast, and Splinter takes him down, and Splinter says, giant rat 1, new guy 0. Like, I thought that was great chemistry between Casey Jones and the Turtles. So that worked really well for me. I enjoyed that. So it was fun to have Stephen Amell join this Turtle family. Will Arnett, I thought he was a lot of fun in this movie. Like, yeah, his part is kind of cheesy, but you know, I expect that from Will Arnett, and he did a really great job. And so there was a lot of this movie that just watching was fun, like the turtle van shooting out the manhole covers. Like, that was a lot of fun. It just felt like they were embracing kind of the fun and silliness of the Ninja Turtles. So there's a lot of that I enjoyed. When I get more into the negatives, the over-sexualization of April O'Neil, it's like, so they, in this movie, I feel like they were embracing more of the silliness of the Turtles. So, you know, it feels like, oh, more kid-friendly. And then all of a sudden, April O'Neil is like changing her clothes, following that guy, you know, showing her midriff. It's like, okay, what's the audience for this movie again? It was just so weird that they threw that in there for no other reason other than it was Megan Fox. I get what they wanted to show. April O'Neil is this awesome investigative reporter, and she'll do whatever it takes to get the story, and so we're trying to see her tenacity and her strength, but I'm looking at it like, no, you're doing that because it's Megan Fox. That's why you're doing that. So it's not really fitting what you're trying to show us about April O'Neil, because you're just trying to show us Megan Fox. And another thing that kind of drug the movie down for me is Krang. I was so excited Krang and the Technodrome was going to be in this movie, but the moment Krang opened his mouth, I did not like his voice. I did not like how his character was done. I didn't like it. So that disappointment, even in watching this movie recently, kind of drugged that down for me and made the ending less exciting than it could have been, just because I just didn't like Krang, so I wasn't looking forward to listening to him talk. I wasn't looking forward to him being in that movie as much as I just wanted to keep seeing Krang. And they even had these great moments, like Michelangelo sees him for the first time because it looks like chewed up gum. That's a great hysterical moment. I just didn't like Krang. And cool that you bring in Baxter Stockman, and he's working on teleportation, and he teleports Shredder away from where Shredder's escaping. But then when Krang hijacks that and brings Shredder into another dimension, we don't even take a moment to have a beat there. Shredder is in another dimension meeting an alien brain. That should have been a moment. But it was like 6 seconds long. Shredder gets sent back, and he just trusts Krang completely that, yeah, I'm gonna rule the world with this guy, so let's just take things over. I mean, at the very least, they could have had Krang, like, find a way to communicate with him, and we could have developed the relationship a little bit that way and developed the character Krang a little bit more, and know why Shredder would so believe Krang is not gonna betray him, because I knew Krang was gonna betray him. Shredder should have known that for sure. He should have had a contingency. How much cooler would it have been if they had developed that out? But then other cool things like Bebop and Rocksteady. It was really cool to have them in this movie and have that nostalgia.
You're a rhinoceros, and you're I'm a little piggy.
It was cool to have the purple ooze as a cool plot device for temptation for the Turtles. Mikey wanting to belong, Raph wanting to belong, them finding out they'd be human with that ooze. So Leo keeps it a secret from Raph and Mikey, which creates a rift.
It could turn us into humans.
And we don't have to be stuck down here forever.
If there's a chance that'd make us human, we're turtles, whether you like it or not.
Like, things like that were cool. The moment that they stepped out of the shadows and the police saw them, and Mikey saw not just fear in the cop's eyes, but hate. The way that affected him was actually really cool. So throwing in the ooze and that temptation for them to become human and them having to overcome that was actually pretty cool. But that's where it's like there's things in this script that were cool. There are things in this script that were just shallow and not balanced. And so I agree with Sean Chandler when he reviewed this movie back in the day. He said it feels like they shot this movie on the first draft of the script. And I can't help but agree with that. Because I feel like there's things in this movie that are very cool, and there are things in this movie that are not fleshed out at all. And so it has this weird balance to it. Coming in at number 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014. I had fun with this movie. It falls apart for me at the end completely. But until we get to the end where it falls apart, I enjoyed everything else about this movie. Look, I'm even going to go to the next controversial step here and say the Turtles look good. The motion capture and the CG of the Turtles, I thought it was fine. I know people probably wanted their faces to look more like the faces from the 1990 movie, but those same people would have complained if it did look like that. I thought they looked like mutated turtles.
just a mask. See? Don't freak out. Right?
When the turtles first show up, so when you have Megan Fox's April O'Neil and she comes to the docks and you have the Foot Clan like taking all those chemicals and you don't really see the turtles, but you hear the sounds, you hear the ninja sound effects, you see the giant crates move and knock tons of Foot Clan into the water. Like, that was a cool setup for the turtles. When the Foot Clan takes people hostage in the subway to try to draw out the turtles, because they don't even know what they're drawing out, and that subway train goes by and it creates the strobe light effect when they turn off the lights and the turtles are fighting in that subway moment, like, that's cool. You can kind of get the hint of mystery, like, what is this? You get it through the perspective of everybody else where they're like, what are these things that are fighting the Foot Clan? Not that I'm complaining, because I don't want to be a hostage, but what was that? It was a really cool moment when April O'Neil snaps that picture of them on the roof and they freeze. Great Ninja Turtle moment. So there are some really cool things that are in this movie. But like I said, after they're going down that snow cliff, sliding down that whole thing, that's where it kind of ends for me. I did not like Megan Fox's April O'Neil in this one. I mean, she was passable, but I did not like her April O'Neil in this one. I don't know. Something about her, a little too whiny, maybe a little too pouty. I don't know. The other thing that I liked, okay, them building this world behind the turtles to connect April O'Neil and connect the Shredder closer to the turtles. I thought that was really cool. The idea that April O'Neil's dad was a scientist, they got this ooze and they're trying to create this mutagen and they're testing it on these 4 little turtles and on the rat. Like, that was cool. And this is where you could tell Eric Sachs was supposed to be the Shredder. They should have taken a risk and they should have kept him as Shredder. Because I feel like if he had stayed the Shredder, it would have been a much cooler moment when he had captured the 3 turtles and they were in those cages.
For what?
Say that again. I want to hear your voice.
For what?
That was a really cool moment. And it feels wasted because he's not the Shredder. Or maybe the rewrite should have been just get rid of Eric Sachs altogether, have Oroku Saki be the rich dude who is the Shredder and now has a little bit of a science background. Because I liked that idea of Shredder being in that lab with April's father and a part of those experiments with this mutagen and like having that closeness to the Turtles' origin story. I thought that was a good idea. Shredder was kind of cool. I did like the outfit. It reminded me of Super Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, and it was actually cool to see Splinter and Shredder fight. I did enjoy that, but that ending where they were fighting on the roof of the building, it was just The Amazing Spider-Man. And it was such a rip-off The Amazing Spider-Man. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know the timing in writing these things, but it was such a ripoff that it just did not work for me. It took me completely out of it. Then the whole confessional thing as they're falling through the sky and then they kind of land just fine on the ground. I was like, well, they're gonna land just fine on the ground holding the giant antenna when they landed. Like, why? The tension of that was now gone. I don't know. Things like that just did not work for me. So for me, the end of this movie did not work. They could have come up with a better finale for this movie. They could have tied the stories together better. And I definitely have my wish list for this movie. But as a whole, I enjoyed it. I think it's a fun Ninja Turtles movie. Coming in at number 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. I like this movie. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it when I was a kid. I enjoyed it as an adult. It's a very fun movie. The thing is, it's softer. You could feel that the 1990 movie, it did have a little bit of an edge to it. This one, they softened that edge. Like, they didn't use their weapons as much. Their lines were a whole lot cheesier. What worked is they kept it in character of the Turtles. So it fit and it was fine. But you can watch this movie and feel overall, they definitely softened it up from the first one. I like the Shredder. I just wish they kept him looking as cool as he did in the first one. What they did with his helmet in this one, where he had the little buzzsaw blades, like, why do that? Just give him back his original helmet. I know it was crushed, but whatever. Just give him back the original helmet. It's weird, the buzzsaw blades. The other thing that was kind of cool with the Shredder is Super Shredder at the end, where he takes in the mutagen and he becomes Super Shredder. As a grown-up, my disappointment was there wasn't an epic fight scene between the Turtles and that Super Shredder. Because as a kid, it was intense. Like watching Shredder under that bridge, tearing apart the beams, making his way to the Turtles. You know that the pier is going to come crashing down on them. So yeah, you feel that. And it's cool to see Monster Shredder just breaking down all that stuff. Like, it was cool. It was cool, but I wish the way we saw the Turtles fight Shredder at the end of the 1990 movie, it would have been cool to see all four of them try to team up on this dude and then realize we got to get him to knock down the pier. It's the only way we're going to take him out. But, he was so super, I'm kind of surprised that the pier killed him. But I wish there was more of a fight there. I just feel like that could have been much cooler. But that's grown-up me saying that. Kid me was okay with it as it was, but me, as a grown-up, was wishing that there was just a little bit more of a fight between the Turtles and Super Shredder. Go Ninja Go. Yeah, it's cheesy as all else. This other thing going on my mind is, this is so iconic. Like, it was just cool to see the Turtles who want to be in public, and these people thinking they're in a costume, and the Turtles dancing to the music, Ninja Rap is born. Like, all of that was just really fun. And so that's the baseline of this movie. It was fun. And one of the things that was cool was Donatello, he kind of had this disillusionment to the fact that they were an accident. He thought there had to have been more to it, but they accidentally stumbled on a formula that made that mutagen. They accidentally happened to break that one vial in the sewer, and those turtles just happened to be there. Donnie's like, there has to be more to it than that. And so I'm thinking of, like, yeah, sometimes, we look at our own personal origins and we might feel disappointed with that, but God has a purpose for all of our lives. And what we see is God had a purpose for their lives. And so here he is being disillusioned by the fact that there had to have been more to our story, but it's like, no, look at the miracle of your guys' lives. And so I thought that was kind of a cool concept to deal with. Even if they dealt with it for a short time, it was still kind of cool. Toka, Razor, fun characters. As a kid, I missed Bebop and Rocksteady. As an adult, I missed Bebop and Rocksteady. But these are fun characters and doing something different. And I wish there was more of the Turtles going up against them, because it was kind of fun, like, to watch them try to beat up these giant monsters and then, not able to, even though they're like babies. So there was some fun to those characters. I wish there was a little bit more between them and the Turtles, but yeah. Overall, it was cool, and it felt like a true sequel to the 1990s movie, and I did enjoy it. But coming in at number 1 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. Hands down, it's the best one. Now, I'm not going to go to a lot of detail here because it wasn't that long ago that I posted a whole theological review on this, so check that out. It was so fun to dive deep into this movie. But really, to sum it up, they caught lightning in a bottle with this one. They created a movie that feels like a 90s movie, it looks like a 90s movie, and yet has a timeless quality to it, because what they did is they captured the essence of these characters. They captured the essence of the 4 Turtles.
God, I love being a turtle!
Like, that was the Turtles. Shredder as a kid gave me chills. Watching it as a grown-up, it's still amazing, that introduction to Shredder in this movie. Splinter is just such a loving father, and his love for his children just gives them so much strength. His patience with Raphael and Raphael's hardships, it's so incredibly good. It's so well done. I just love this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, period. So check out my other review if you want to get more details on my thoughts of that one. Which is your favorite? How would you rank all these movies worst to best? Let's do that in the comments. While you're there, hit that subscribe button to become a Durbanian, and hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified the next time I drop a movie review, ranking video, theological analysis, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.